If the only tool you have is a hammer, you tend to see every problem as a nail. Abraham Maslow. What Maslow meant by the hammer is the power of education. Education has the power to solve most problems in the world today. Part of our duty towards our society is increasing the sharing of knowledge that we have learned, experienced, or collected. Aspire is a new dialogue program that invites guests from various educational backgrounds who kindly share their stories and advice to help our new generations to live a good life. Education is for improving the lives of others and for leaving your community and world better than you found it. Marian Wright Edelman. It is highly appreciated that we have speakers who want to increase the knowledge of parents in order to ensure that our kids grow up in a safe environment. As well as educating youth, increasing the knowledge of parents is one of the best ways to ensure that our kids grow up in a safe environment. This program discusses issues that are important for people in various fields of interest. Aspire is presented by doctoral student Madi Alakloubi.
Please welcome Mr. Al-Bahari. Mr. Al-Bahari, thank you so much for accepting our invitation tonight.
Thank you very much for having me with you.
So tonight we're going to talk about leadership in crisis, human resource management, and information security. So I would like to know how leaders handle a crisis to reduce their workplace anxiety.
Yes, that's very interesting questions, because if you ask me about leaders and their roles in crisis, I would take it, for the industry itself, because crisis is different from one industry to the others.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are talking about their roles in general, in handling and management crisis, it's been like 20 years now that crisis management has been introduced to the science.
Wow.
Now it's a big study and big researches happen in the crisis management now.
Exactly.
And crisis management is mainly how to handle and manage the crisis in the time of crisis. The leaders are having a very important role because are the ones who are giving us an example how to manage it. So nowadays they are introducing crisis management center, crisis management team, crisis management tools, and crisis management technology, because if you are dealing with any critical infrastructure like water, electricity, and gas, these are very critical to the society, and it needs lots of a kind of a disaster recovery and emergency response and crisis management.
Yes.
So if you ask me about leaders, then it's going to trigger us and take us to the recent crisis that the whole world has faced, which is COVID-19.
Exactly.
So what was the roles of the leader in this crisis? During the COVID-19, because it's something happened all of the sudden, there are some leaders who succeed to take their people and in order to pass this crisis, and some other were struggling because they were not ready.
Yeah.
They were not having any crisis management center or crisis management planning and crisis management preparations. If I say preparation, because there is a preparedness before anything that can happen. People are proactive, people are reactive. If you ask me about leaders are always proactive. They know what they are doing, and they always put in their consideration things that it has to happen during crisis. Although the COVID-19 was something that is unprecedented in its nature, and its bad consequences and the implication on the society, on the people, and it leads to lots of deaths and fatal incidents, and also bad implication on the economy of the country. It was a worldwide pandemic. But from my perspective, because this is what I have faced, working in the Department of Transport, working on the railways, working on the security management companies, leaders began to understand, how can we sustain the business while we are in crisis? And here comes the concept of working from home.
Yes.
So nowadays people are working from home due to the crisis. Due to the decision has been made by a leader that in order to sustain the business, let's sustain the business, let's operate but from home. Let's secure the access from home and let the people operate, and maybe they can come to the offices or come to the working spaces wherever it is needed and whenever it is needed. So the leader has played a very successful role, as I have seen during the last few years. Yeah.
So as you mentioned, that COVID-19 pandemic has changed the philosophy of traditional leadership in terms of relying on one leader who always holds the power. So what do you think about the future of leadership style? I mean, what is the lesson that leaders should learn from COVID-19 pandemic?
Yeah, as I said earlier, that COVID-19 has resulted in lots of lessons learned.
Yeah.
And I think the first lesson learned from COVID-19 that people start thinking about what is the most appropriate way in order to sustain the business, because we work for operating the business. We want something to happen and we don't want anything to stop. So how can we sustain business? I'm talking about large business. I'm talking about governmental entities, about big industry like transportations, like water supplies, like electricity, things that are very critical that you cannot live without.
Right.
Gas, electricity and water. So the leaders now, or they have already thought about it, and they said, okay, now we have the crisis. What are the negative implications of the crisis? How can we manage? How can we properly manage? If you ask me about a proper style of a leader, the successful leader that has proven to be workable and operating during the last few years is lead by examples. So leaders are no longer holding all the authority in their hand. They don't have the time. And and they have to understand the people that working with them. So leader who has got all the power, it's an autocratic way of leadership. It's no longer exists anymore. Now leaders are proactively supporting their employee, working with the employee, listening to the employee. What do they want? And I have seen that leaders are talking to the people, now they are holding town halls, talking to the people. What do they want? What do you think that the best way in order to work and together without losing the collaboration of the people and the communication among ourselves, without losing any establishment of any communication challenge in order to make the business sustainable. So, and now they are coming with a very successful model of operation, which is the hybrid model. I will go to the office whenever it's needed. We will go to the office when there is a workshop or when there is a webinar or there is a town hall or there is a leader who wants to see all the people without any medical implications.
That's what they learned from COVID-19.
That's what they learned from COVID-19. Okay, now some of the companies say, oh, why should I have these big offices if the people can work from home and they can save the time of commuting? I knew it myself. I was working in Toronto and people sometimes take 3 hours, 1 hour, 1.5 hour going, 1.5 hour coming back. Then they said, okay, I'm gonna save you 3 hours a day. These 3 hours makes you more productive.
Oh, yes.
And they found out that, and it's scientific statistics they have conducted, that the people are more productive being in a hybrid model, working from their home, because I'm saving them the trouble, the effort, and the tiresome of transportations, driving, taking the train, metro, underground. They work from home. They wake up in the morning, they do some activities, or they take their breakfast and start working and take a break and so forth. Exactly. So this is the successful result of the leader facing the COVID-19, which is a crisis.
Yes, exactly. So let's talk to another topic, which is human resource management.
Yes.
As far as I know, that human resource management is about focusing on people, not processing, right? But some leaders use human resource as umbrella to challenge other workers. What is the right function of human resource management?
Okay, I have myself, because I have been in the business for the last 25 years of my life, have seen the classical old-fashioned way of human resources, which was, as you said, it's an umbrella for managing the people, who's coming, who's going, and have an HR file, and you want to monitor, the people, and then send the report to the finance for the payroll system. This old style or old school is no longer exist nowadays. Now the human resource people are partners of the company. They call them HR partners, and their role has drastically changed in order to play an effective, proactive role in the organization. So right now, human resource, they are into training and development, because at the end of the day, they want to hire the right candidate for the right position. So there is an interactions between the HR and the hiring manager, the functional manager, the people inside the organization. What do I want? I want an engineer. So what kind of engineer? Is a mechanical engineer? Is an electrical engineer? What is the job description? What is the job requirements? What is the qualification of this candidate? So there is a recruitment process and there is an onboarding process, and this also job title change and promotion process. So all these are, embedded with the training and awareness. So now the human resources are continuously working with the hiring manager in order to measure the performance of the employees and helping the hiring manager. And when I say hiring manager, is a functional manager, the people in the ground, the people who are working on different business unit, engineering, technical support, IT, security, whatever it is. So these people, they need technical skills, or their employees, their subordinate, or the employee working with them, they need to raise their skills and level of understanding of what they are doing. So there is a technical, training, and there is also a general training. So HR is focusing on the HR, general training. So they want to train them because they want to educate them. They want them to reach out to the skills that is required by the mandatory requirement of the position. So HR role now is very critical. It's becoming, very vital for the improvement of the technical skill of the organization and measuring the effectiveness of the training and awareness, modules that they put and they set inside the organization itself.
Not just only observe them.
No, it's not observing them, it's not monitoring their performance for the sake of improvement of their operating skills. But not monitoring them as a police or a checkpoint, it's no longer there.
So what is the acceptable style of HR that create value for our organization?
The HR model that add value to the organization are the people who understand their positions and what are the requirements of the HR and working side by side as a partner of the functional manager inside, understanding their needs and their requirements and bring them the right candidate in the right time, because sometimes nowadays if you look for the right candidate it might take a lot of time. But nowadays they have lots of skills. They go to the media, they go to the LinkedIn, they go to the workplace. There is lots of job publishing, websites. They can pick up the right candidate and they can bring many and filter them and make a pre-interview before they bring them to the organization. So they have a very critical role to play, and they are working, as I said, engaged side by side by the functional managers.
Let's talk about another area of your interest, which is information security. I know that data protection is a huge topic, but I'm going to focus on young people and social media these days. What is your message for young users on social media who share their personal information and small details for everyone?
Yeah. So you first mentioned about information security. So information and security as a whole, its objective or function is to protect any critical information. So if we are considering this concept of information security, so what do we have in order to protect and how we are protecting this? So it is not only the child or the people, it is the people in general. What are the critical information that do we have in order to protect it, whether we are being in our homes, in our school, in our university, when we are in a coffee shop, wherever we are. If you want to implicate that on the childs, it's very critical, that, we know about privacy. What does it mean privacy? Nowadays, privacy has been introduced now recently during the last 5 or 6 years, and there is right now, if you look to the European countries, they have a GDPR standard that every country, it's a global, it's a general, protection of the private information. When I say private information, it's your name, it's private information, your birthday, your SIM card, your insurance, your address, anything belongs to you. They call it PII, personal identifiable information. So we have to protect it. And sometimes we voluntarily display it or give it to the people just like this. So I know that people sometimes, especially, the young children, they go and they download games and they need to put their information. Sometimes they put some financial information. So they ask your dad or their mother, give me your credit card, and they put the card and they save it because they don't want to bother themselves about putting the information again and again. So this is very critical, this is very dangerous, and they can endanger us also not only themselves, but their parents and their parents' financial, wealth.
Yeah.
So how can we protect them? Because nowadays it's very critical and it's very dangerous, and we have seen lots of internet crimes.
Yeah,
and people are always, and all of us are victims to many crimes that's happening every day. And there is something called ransomware, which is people asking for redemptions. They can take your information from your laptop, from your workstations, and they can then encrypt it and you cannot access, and they ask you for money, This is ransomware. There is also something called phishing attacks, so as people send, fishy links through the emails, and some people, they are happy, open this attachment of the email or a text message. Oh, you win with us. Oh, there is a reward for you, or there is a package comes to you from UBS. They don't look into the address or the content of the email or the credibility of the signature of the transmitter of this email. We have to be very careful. But how can we protect our children? The first important thing is educating them, sitting with them, liaising with them, escorting them when they are doing something, in their private life. We have to be very close to them. And if needed be, we can bring someone to educate them about how to save their navigation through the internet and how they can protect themselves instead of voluntarily exposing their information to the others without knowing is it a credible source or not, And we have to control their access to the internet. We don't have to let them do whatever they want to do anytime they want to do. And nowadays it becomes, risky, dangerous, and there is lots of crime happen.
Yeah.
And many people were, victims of this kind of unethical,
and
behaviors.
I wish school also provide programs for students to help them understand.
There is.
Sharing privacy.
Yeah, there is. I see that with my children because I have two twin boys in the in the high school, and they came and they speak with me about information security, and they take them to the libraries. They just show them some videos speaking about crimes and internet. But even though whenever it comes to the games and the download of their games, they don't care, And sometimes they put my name, and I found some email coming. Why you put my name in this? So I'm always behind them in order to try to control and monitor what they are doing to some extent, because I don't want also to enforce something on them, then they can do it behind me, We have to be very transparent with them and educate them, We have to work also in their mindset and make them aware of the bad consequences if they go this way.
Okay, how can we raise awareness about online child safety and security?
You're being a friend of your child.
Okay.
It's very important. Talk to them about it.
Oh yes.
We have to be transparent. And the privacy standards has got 10 pillars. One of them is privacy. It's transparency.
Yeah.
And the other one is openness. We have to be very open with them. Speak about it. Speak about how the people can hurt the other. How the people this can lead to a crime. Sometimes there is a crime happens through the internet. People now dating and they go out and they can see some stranger, and when they meet with them, they can entrap them and put them in trouble. So I myself work on the IT and information security, and I talk to my children. And nowadays, because we talk too much about it, they want to become an information security specialist. So we have to talk to them. We have also to let them speak about the topics in the school.
Yes.
So sometimes they come from school and I speak, what did you learn in the school? What did they take you? Oh, they take us to the library, they take to the computer room, and they explain to us about this and that. Then when it comes to games, the specific game online, who you are playing with, because nowadays they play online with strangers.
Exactly.
So they go to one game and they found X, Y, Z of people, and they don't know who they are and where they are, from which country, so things like this has to be monitored and controlled, you know.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rabihari.
Thank you very much for having me, and nice meeting you. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you, you too. Thank you.